And now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
It's a little small. I can see it, but it's.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay. Much better.
Okay.
It's definitely getting better.
Definitely better. Thank you.
Definitely better.
All right. So here we are. Let me get rid of some of these other things. I don't know. Do you see all the other things that are on my screen, or you just see that?
We just see
No,
the
we
window
just see the text.
Oh, cool.
and
Okay.
the window above. It's okay.
All right, good. So this is called, if I can see, the Tale of the Jerusalemite, Maseh Yerushalmi. And this is an old story. We're not quite sure how old. Some scholars estimate it to be a mere 800 years old, and other scholars think that it's 1,000 years old or more. It's an interesting, do I ever pick a non-interesting story? No, it's an interesting story. It takes its time as it winds its way around to get to all the different elements of the story. And we'll see how it plays out, okay? So somebody needs to volunteer to read a little bit for us. It's not me.
I'll read.
Okay, John, go ahead.
There once lived a great merchant who had a single son. He taught his son Torah, Mishnah, and Talmud, and gave him a wife who bore children to the son during his father's lifetime. When the time came for the merchant to die, he summoned all the elders of the town. "You know that I own a large amount of property," he said to them. "My wife, according to the terms of her marriage contract, will receive from my estate more than 100 measures of silver. The rest of my wealth I leave to my son, if he follows the command I now set before him in your presence. But if he disobeys my last will, I consecrate my property to heaven." He called his son at once and announced before the elders, "My son, you know how much property I own, silver, gold, precious stones, and pearls. I earned them toiling on journeys over land and sea. How many tribulations I endured on the oceans. Swear to me by the strictest of oaths that you will not endanger yourself on the sea. For I'm about to leave you sufficient wealth for you, for your children, and for your children's children. But if you violate this oath, then I consecrate all my property to heaven." The son swore before the town's elders that he would never go to sea. And after some time, the father died, and the son sat and studied Torah in obedience to his oath. 2 years later, a ship came to port in the very town. When the sailors went to shore, they asked if the merchant was still alive. The people told them the merchant died, but he left behind a son who was wealthy and a scholar. "Please show us his home," the sailors asked, and they entered the house to greet the son. "Are you really the child of the great merchant who journeyed in trade to the ends of the earth?" "I am the son of that man," he replied. "If so," they said, "tell us what instructions your father gave you about the properties and securities he owned abroad at the time of his death." "He gave me no instructions about what he owned. He only bound me by oath never to go to sea." "If it's true that he did not leave instructions about his deposits or property abroad," responded the sailors, "then he must have been feeble when he died. Everything on this ship, the silver, the gold, the pearls, all of it belonged to your father, who left it with us in trust. Even though he has died and left no instructions, we could never, heaven forbid, betray his confidence. For we are trustworthy men and we worship the Lord in heaven. We do not covet the money for others, for, the Lord be praised, we have much wealth of our own. Come now with your servants and take everything in the ship. It's all yours." The merchant's son happily went to the ship and brought all the money to his house. He invited the sailors home as well and made a feast and celebration. The next day, the sailors declared, "Your father was known to be a wise and clever man. When, at the time of his dying, he made you swear never to go to sea, he could not have been in his right mind. In truth, the oath he made you swear has no substance, for your father still owns properties and securities 10 times greater than what we have brought you. How could he ever make you swear and lose that property? He must have been demented. Listen to us, request permission from the king and from the sages. Come away with us, buy the merchandise found in our country, make a profit on it, and return home happy with the
A great profit.
Make a great profit on it and return home happy with the money your father deposited in our homeland." The son replied, My father has already made me take an oath never to go to sea. I will not violate this oath. As for his not giving me instructions about the money abroad, he must have had his own welfare in mind.
My own welfare.
My own welfare in mind, not wanting me to wish to go to sea to bring the money home. You see, I cannot break the oath. The sailors asked, did your father love you more than himself? Yet he went to sea all his life until he had become very rich. No, he must have been unbalanced. The oath has no substance, for even Job did not speak with knowledge. It would be best for you to have the oath nullified and come with us. In the end, the sailors so pressed the son and distracted him from his...
Sorry. Whoops. Whoops.
Distracted him from his right mind that he gave in, feeling compelled to accompany them and bring back the money. What did he do? He went and purchased a great store of merchandise and left with the sailors on their ship. As they sailed in the ship on the great sea, God was incensed at his going, for the man had broken his oath and his father's commandment. And the Lord cast a mighty wind upon the sea, and there was such a great tempest in the sea that the ship was wrecked. And all the sailors who had misled the man and turned his mind to embark upon the sea, to transgress the oath and his father's commandment, were drowned. But the Lord, blessed be he, made a sign to the celestial officer in charge of the sea. He cast the man onto dry land, naked and barefoot, at the ends of the earth, in a place uninhabited by mankind. And this way the man would now suffer in his lifetime the punishment for the sin that he had committed. The man, once he came to dry land and saw himself naked and barefoot, recognized that this was God's wrath, and that the day of his judgment had arrived. The man lifted his eyes to heaven and surrendered to divine judgment. Then he began to walk along the seashore in hopes of finding shelter or something to eat or wear, for he was naked as when he came forth from the womb. And he had asked a whole day.
After he had walked.
After he walked a whole day, he came upon a tree whose foliage overspread the seashore. The man thought to himself, some person has planted this tree. He began to look for its roots, but he did not find them until it was dark, for they lay at a distance of 40 parasangs. Realizing that he had nothing to eat or wear, he rose and covered his body with the tree's leaves in order to protect himself from the cold of the night. It was midnight when he heard the roar of a lion. The man understood that a lion was approaching to eat him. As it drew nearer, the man, terrified that he was about to be eaten for having broken his father's oath, raised his voice, crying to God, the Lord of Israel, to protect and show him mercy, not to rage in anger against him, and not to punish him with a death so unnatural. What did the man do? He grabbed the leaves and he climbed up one of the branches of the tree. When the lion came, it saw nothing and went away. The man thanked the blessed Lord for saving him from the lion. He decided to climb higher up the tree, hoping to find something to eat, for he was starved. And when he had climbed all the way up, he discovered a great bird, which is called the kefufa. As soon as the bird saw the man, it opened its beak to eat him. The man sought to flee, but the Lord, may he be blessed, set wisdom in the man's heart. He mounted the bird, and once he was on top, the kefufa became so frightened it did not move or stir from its place the entire night. The young man, also afraid, prayed to the blessed Lord to save him, holding on to the bird's feathers with both hands. And while the man could not descend from the bird, the kefufa was also terrified, for it did not know who was mounted on its back. At daybreak, the kefufa saw the man, but it was still terrified. All day until evening came, the bird flew in a panic, carrying its passenger across the sea to the ends of the earth. The man looked down as he passed over the ocean, and afraid he was about to fall, he prayed to the blessed Lord to rescue him. In the night, the kefufa passed over a certain province flying close to the ground. The man heard the voices of children reading the section of the Torah that begins, "These are the rules that you shall set before them when you acquire a Hebrew slave."
That's this coming Shabbos Torah reading.
Wow, what a coincidence.
So it's amazing. It's amazing how God operates in these amazing ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Hearing this, the man said to himself, "This province must certainly have Jews living in it. I will throw myself down there. Perhaps they will pity me. If not, I'll sell myself as a slave. And so he threw himself down and landed at the gate of the synagogue in that town. The kefufa went on its way, but the man, once he had fallen, could not move for 2 days. He had nearly been crushed by the force of the fall. Besides, he was very weak since he had not eaten for 2 days. At last he rose to his feet and walked toward the gate of the synagogue, but he found it closed. The man shouted, "Open the gates of righteousness for me."
Anybody recognize that verse?
Sounds like the
That's
Torah.
that's the verse that we say in Hallel.
Shomrei tzedek.
I'd open for me the gates of righteousness. Okay.
A boy came out of the synagogue. "Who are you?" he asked. The man replied, "I'm a Hebrew and I worship the Lord God of heaven."
Okay. Does anybody recognize that phrase? There's a little footnote, but we don't need a footnote because we know it already. What echoes have we, could we identify so far in the story for some other older biblical stories, for instance, that this story is stealing from? Yeah, Lynn.
Well, Garden of Eden sort of crossed my mind a couple of times.
Why?
Well, he arrives naked on the shore and he's covering himself up with leaves and he's talking to God the whole time.
Right. And how did he get into that predicament? Josie, you gotta unmute.
Oh, sorry, Josie.
It reminded me of Jonah, that God made the sea angry,
Right.
and sailors drowned, but
Right.
Jonah,
Except there, the sailors don't drown. The sailors there are the righteous sailors.
right,
They end up getting spared, but they get spared because they throw Jonah overboard. Right. So in this case,
they're the bad guys.
right, this statement, "I am a Hebrew and I worship the Lord God of heaven," is the way Jonah introduces himself to the sailors when they say, "Hey,
Wow.
who are you? You know, everybody else is freaking out. What the heck is going on with you? You're just like sleeping here. What's happening?" So here he's the story borrows that Jonah motif again. Good. Back to you, John.
And a boy came out of the synagogue. "Who are you?" he asked. The man replied, "I'm a Hebrew and I worship the Lord God of heaven." The boy went and told the rabbi, who told him to open the door. When the rabbi saw that the man had no clothes, he asked what had happened. And the man told the rabbi his entire story, beginning to end, all the troubles he had suffered. The rabbi responded, "Everything that has happened to you is trivial in comparison with what you are now about to suffer here. But aren't you Jews?" the man asked. "Are not the children of Israel a merciful people, descendant of merciful ancestors? And particularly to someone like myself, an impoverished man lacking everything, naked and barefoot? Don't waste your words," the rabbi said. "You can't be saved from death." "Why do you say such things?" the man implored. This is not a town of humans, but of demons," answered the rabbi. "These boys are children of demons. They are about to gather to pray at this moment. When they see you, they'll kill you." As soon as the man heard this, he fell panic-stricken before the rabbi, as though to kiss his feet, and he begged him for advice as to how he could be delivered from death, for he was learned in Torah and pious, except for the time he sinned by following the counsel of men who misled him into transgressing his father's oath. As the rabbi listened, he was overcome with pity for the man. "You are a scholar of Torah, a learned man," the rabbi said. "Since you show great regret for what you have done, you deserve mercy. And because you kissed my feet and fell before me, I will make an effort to save you." What did the rabbi do? He took the man to his house, fed and clothed him, and let him sleep there. And all night the demons did not sense his presence. The next day the rabbi said to him, "Come with me to the synagogue. Sit beneath my robe, but don't say a word until I speak to them on your behalf." They went to the synagogue, and the man sat hidden in the rabbi's robe. At daybreak, the demons came to the synagogue like fiery torches. The man heard the roar of thunder and lightning and shrieks of terror everywhere, and was left in such a dread he could hardly breathe. And then the demons, just like Jews, began to recite the preliminary prayers, the psalms of praise. One demon, however, was standing near the rabbi, and he said to his fellow demon, "I smell a human."
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
Two of them heard the voice of the man in their midst, and they said, "Here he is, sitting next to the rabbi." Yet because the man was under the cloak of the rabbi, whom they treated with respect, the demons did not harm the man. The rabbi, though, immediately realized that the man's presence had been detected. Waiting until the preliminary prayers had been completed, he told the prayer leader, "Stop the prayers, let me speak." Excuse me. "Speak, our teacher," the demons responded. "Your servants are attentive." "I beg you," the rabbi said to them, "do not harm this man. He has come beneath the shelter of my roof. And what is this mortal to us?"
This is what Lot says to the residents of Sodom when they circle his house because they heard the outrageous idea that he was being nice to a visitor. So this is, again, a biblical reference.
"And what is this mortal to us?" they responded. "What reason has he for being here?" The rabbi told him his entire story from beginning to end, but the demons answered, "How can we spare a man as wicked as this, who disobeyed both his father's commandment and a sacred oath? Such a man deserves to die." The rabbi replied, "The man has already taken his punishment through the troubles he has suffered. He is a Torah scholar, moreover, and it is only right. He's a Torah scholar, moreover, and it is only right that his knowledge of Torah protect him. If he truly deserved death, then the Lord, blessed be he, would not have saved him from the lion, from the sea, from the kafufa, and from the many other calamities he faced. Yet that is all the more reason for him to be executed now," the demons countered, "precisely because he is a Torah scholar who did not obey his father's commandment and broke his oath. Even the crimes he committed unintentionally should now be treated as though they were done willfully. There is only one reason God has saved him from everything until now, that he might die an unnatural death at our hands." The rabbi said, "It would not be right for you to execute him without a proper trial. He is, after all, a man learned in Torah. Now do what I say. Let the prayer leader announce that no demon shall harm the man during the prayer service. Immediately after the service, we will take him to King Ashmadai.
Ashmadai is the king of all demons.
Who will judge whether or not the man shall be executed." The demons responded unanimously, "What you propose to do is good." They immediately ordered the prayer leader in the synagogue to announce that no demon was to harm the man until the king of the demons had judged him. After prayers, they brought the man before.
Just for a second, here's a little illustration. That looks
Woodcut.
like a king. That looks like a king, right? So we'll see what's going to happen here. There's the whole city of the demons.
They brought him before Ashmadai. "O king, our lord," they said, "this man has sinned against God. He has broken his oath, and he did not keep his father's commandment. The following things have already happened to him, but we did not wish to execute him before we had brought him to you, for he is a scholar of Torah." When the king heard this, he summoned the members of his court. After telling them what the man had done and what had subsequently happened to him, he gave them the following charge: "Render a just verdict in the morning. His case must be thoroughly researched, for he is a Torah scholar. Therefore, judge him according to the laws of the Torah of Moses." The members of the court adjourned, investigated the case, and issued their verdict: the man must die. For it is written, "Cursed be the man who dishonors his father and mother." And this verse refers to a person who makes light of his father's honor, just as this man broke his father's oath. And he is who accursed is guilty of death. From where do we know this? From the case of Jonathan, the son of Saul, who was accursed. The members of the court returned to the king Ashmadai and reported their verdict to the man, that the man be executed for the stated reasons. Ashmadai said to them, "Be lenient in judgment, leave it overnight, for it is said, the congregation shall judge and the congregation shall protect." Even Moses, their teacher, hesitated to pronounce judgment upon the man who gathered wood on the Sabbath, since the law for that transgression was not explicitly stated.
Okay, so let's just take a break here for a second. And any comments, any observations about how this story is being presented? What's going on here in this scene in particular?
I found it from the beginning interesting in that it sounded very similar to another story we have done. For a minute there, I thought it was the same story, but it's similar but different, because we did a story a few months ago about somebody who went to sea and almost died and was sort of saved. I'm not remembering it correctly, but it sounds similar. So it must be a theme from some of the writers of Jewish literature.
Well, it's definitely the idea of going out to sea and trying to make a living is something that, of course, was a common occurrence for many people. Jews were merchants and had to do international trade. Maimonides' brother, who supported him for many years, he was a merchant trader, and he died at sea. I mean, those kinds of things are rooted in fact. But when we have this presentation, who's talking here? Who's this king and who is this court? Who are these people?
Well, demons. Yeah.
Demons.
They're demons. Are they talking?
Synagogue going demons.
Absolutely. Are they behaving like what we would expect demons to be?
No.
They're the most pious, observant Jews that you can imagine, and they're quoting Torah, and they're arguing about whether this verse should apply here or that verse, and the king of all the demons, right? So this is like the super bad guy of all bad guys, as close to Satan as you can get. He's asking for mercy. This person is a Torah scholar, right? And that comes up again and again and again. The fact that this guy is a Torah scholar, what does that mean to people here, to these demons, and to the rabbi? We don't know.
Leniency, like he should be judged carefully.
Well,
And,
that's what
maybe
the
not
rabbi,
leniency yet, but
that's what the rabbi says, and we still have an open question: is the rabbi a demon,
Yeah.
or are all
Yes.
these people? Yeah, all right.
I don't know.
It's a little vague to me. It could be it's ambiguous. It could be that he's stuck there, but he's he's not called a demon ever. But
Well, this could just be how most rabbis feel, right?
yeah,
They're in
Or-
a synagogue full
or,
of demons.
as all the congregants here on this call said, is the rabbi a demon? Of course. So that's also pretty realistic. So anyway, but the rabbi says, look, have a little rachmanis, have a little mercy on this guy. The guy is a Torah scholar. But what do the demons say about him being a Torah scholar?
Especially because
On the contrary, if he's a
Right.
Torah scholar, then he should be held to the highest standards.
that makes sense.
And in the end, he's charged with two serious charges, two separate charges. They're related to each other, but they're separate. What are the two charges that he is accused of being guilty of?
He broke his oath to his father.
Yeah,
Dishonored his father.
yeah. The oath part, if you make an oath to anybody, you're supposed to stand up, and to your oath, and you're supposed to, live up to that. So he broke his oath. So not only did he break his oath, one of the 10 commandments, don't take my name, to swear in vain. But also, he's not honoring his father said how important this was to him. Right? His father said, this is so important. I do not want you to go and do this. And he decided he didn't have to listen. And of course, this goes back to the beginning of the story. In the end, how did they persuade him not to honor his father's wishes?
He said his father.
Yeah.
The sailors kept saying that his father didn't leave them instructions, but his father would want him to go and get the rest of his inheritance. And they kept pressuring him and pressuring him and pressuring him until it was just easier to throw his hands up and just and say, okay, I'll do it, because he very possibly wanted to get away from all the pressure and everything that was being said, and he just couldn't resist what they were saying because there was so much pressure brought to bear.
What
They
did
were-
say
They were
specifically?
doing it out of self-interest.
Well, but whatever the motivations, they said something very specific. Joseph,
Yes.
They said the father must have been crazy or out of his mind.
right? He wasn't in
He
his
was
right
wise.
mind. He was demented. He's an old man. You can't take what he says seriously. He was, his whole life he was a shrewd businessman. Now all of a sudden he's asking you not to be. Does he love you more than himself? Because the answer is every parent does. So the argument that they keep pushing on him is an argument that tears down the honor of his father. And that in the end is what he agrees to, right? How is he saying to himself that they must be right? Well, they must be, yeah, Dad really, really didn't mean it. He wasn't all there at the end when he made this demand. Very
But how
tempting.
did they know? But how did they know? They were just pushing
That's
him along
John-
and using
that's
whatever they
John-
could.
That's John's point, that they wanted to go and do business.
They
But the way that they made the argument was a way of tearing down the honor of the father. So and he bought it,
He didn't know his father well enough to know that he said he
Of course he
had
knew
his
his
son
father
make
well.
the oath, and he was of sound mind.
No, he knew his father well enough. This is the way people make excuses, just like they make an excuse. Okay, we'll go attack the Capitol because the vote was stolen. You know what's true, but you make an excuse anyway. Hold on a second. This might be important for me. 1 second. Hey. Okay, back to this. So here the king is asking now, and he's quoting scripture, and he says, be lenient to judgment. Let it go for the night. Think it over. Don't be so hasty in judgment. For it is said, "V'shaftu ha'ida, v'hitzilu ha'ida." These are phrases taken from the book of Numbers. And it's a cut and paste that the rabbis did, because there are dots, as you can see. The verses are two separate verses, but they put these two phrases together, and their lesson is when a court goes into the congregation, here means a court, a congregation of judges together. When the court convenes, they should always err on the side of here protecting the innocent. Actually, the better translation is they should save. Let the judges save a person from punishment. So if you can at all not be punitive, try to do that. So here's the king pleading with the court to not insist on executing the guy. And we have here the other story about Moses, that Moses waits until it's absolutely clear what he should do. It was clear that the person violated Shabbos, but they didn't jump. And so he's asking the court to think about it. Think it over. The members of the court, back to here. John, back to you.
The members of the court replied, "We will do as you say, for you are our Lord, and we look to you for guidance." The king said, "The man will come with me tonight. No one shall harm him until his verdict has been made clear." And so it was. At the time, Ashmedai asked the man if he had studied Torah and Talmud. At that time, Ashmedai asked the man if he had studied Torah and Talmud. He ordered that a Bible, Mishnah, and Talmud be brought before the man, and then they examined him and found that he was wise and expert in every subject.
Now remember, to examine a person, whether they know Talmud and Mishnah and so on, you have to know. So all of these demons are very knowledgeable in the Torah.
When Ashmedai saw this, he said, "Now I know that you are a truly wise man, for you have found favor in my eyes. Swear to me that you will live here and instruct my children in what you know. And I will protect you from the demons' hands, for I know that they will make a pact to kill you." The man took an oath to that effect. The king then said, "Let me teach you the correct arguments to plead tomorrow. When they say you are guilty of death, respond by saying that you yourself are a judge and a learned man. You wish to review the case and to examine the arguments. They will come to me, and I will save you." The next day, the members of the court came before King Ashmedai and told him, "We have no cause to acquit him." The man spoke up in response, "Mine is a court greater than yours. I wish to examine the case for myself." They replied, "No man admits to his own guilt." Immediately they took counsel among themselves. "The best thing we can do," they said, "is to follow the words of King Ashmedai, for he studies every day in the Celestial Academy and then descends and teaches in the academy below, and so he is expert in the laws of heaven and earth." They came to Ashmedai and asked him, "What is your verdict?" Ashmedai responded, "The man has not committed a transgression transgression justifying the death penalty. Whatever he did was not rebellious or belligerent or malicious. Other men incited him. They misled him. And as the rabbi says, the Torah absolves a man who acts under duress. For where is the law derived? From the verse, and do nothing to the girl. You know that the Lord put those other men to death while at sea, yet he saved this man. When the court heard this, they declared the man innocent.
Okay, so these, again, just you should understand that these are all references to halachic teachings in the Talmud, and we understand that when, for instance, don't do anything to the woman. This is about a woman who was attacked by somebody, and she is not guilty of any wrongdoing because she's been forced by the person who attacked her. So here he says there was a psychological pressure that was put on the man, and here's the proof. After all, God, brought the judgment and execution on the sailors, and it saved him, so he must be okay. So, okay, they back down. What do you think about that other image, just by the way, that the king of the demons, how does the king of the demons spend his days?
Studying.
Studying Torah, right? He goes up into heaven to study Torah, then he comes down to the demons and he teaches the demons Torah. And what is his interest in preserving and protecting this guy?
To teach his children.
Right? So here we have, in terms of the Torah, everybody loves the Torah, right? Even the demons love the Torah. Even the demons can't get enough Torah, right? So, and here's this guy who has, so much to give. What a shame it would be to lose this person from being their teacher, right? Which makes us think a little bit maybe that's part of what the rabbi's job has been. Afterward,
Ashmedai took the man home and set his son before him. They studied the Pentateuch, the prophets, and the writings, the Mishnah, and the Gemara. The man was shown great honor, and by the end of 3 years, Ashmedai's son had mastered the entire Torah. During this time, one of the king's provinces rose in rebellion. King Ashmedai assembled his legions, and he appointed the man over his house and property, entrusting him with the keys to the treasury. The king, after ordering the entire household to do nothing without his permission, showed the man all the treasuries. There was, however, one door that he pointed out to him, which he did not give the man a key. You may enter every one of my treasuries except for this one, the king told the man. He then departed to lay siege to the rebellious province. One day, the man happened to pass the door that Ashmedai had commanded him not to enter. The man asked himself, what could there be in this treasury that is not in the others? Why did Ashmedai command me not to enter it? The man went up to the entrance. The daughter of Ashmedai was seated on a golden throne. 7 maidens danced and frolicked before her, and she was shapely and beautiful. When she saw the man, she called out, enter. The man entered and stood before her. Fool, she said to him, first you disobeyed your father's command, and now you've disobeyed the command of my father, the king. Besides, what business have you with women? I hope you know that you're going to die today. My father already knows that you have entered this house. Look, here he comes with his sword in his hand, drawn to kill you. Hearing this, the man fell at her feet, kissing them and weeping and pleading with her to save him from her father, as he might be slain. For he had not entered the house for licentious purposes. His intentions had not been evil. Observing this, Ashmedai's daughter said to the man, since you are a scholar, your modesty will save you today. But leave the house. When my father arrives and asks why you entered and disobeyed his command, and when he seeks to kill you, tell him, my lord, please understand that I entered the house only because I'm in love with your daughter. I ask you, give her to me as a wife. Your words will win approval in his eyes, I know. He will give me to you, since the day you arrived, he has had his eye upon you to marry me off to you, because you are a scholar of Torah. But this is not our custom for a female to woo a male, and for a great king like him to ask a man to marry his daughter is insulting. When the man heard her words, he was delighted. Indeed, he was still thinking about it as he left the house, and Ashmedai arrived, his sword drawn. He asked the man, why did you disobey my commandment? The day of your doom has come. I shall expect exact payment for all you have done. Heaven forbid, O king, the man replied. I entered the house only out of desire for your daughter. I beg you, give her to me as wife. I am in love with her.
So before we go on, any other biblical echoes that we hear? who's a person who starts out as a helper in somebody's household who's very powerful, and then the powerful person says, I like this young person, and gives them, you know, free reign of their household and running everything, of course, with one little limitation, of course.
Joseph.
Right, 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 and of course the one limitation is his wife. So here we have a little bit of a wrinkle, a little bit of a variation. The one variation, the one limitation is don't mess with my daughter, which of course he ends up not being able to you know, to avoid doing. How do you see this guy? How do you see this guy? Remember, now this is not, we had one story of one episode of him failing his obligation. And here it is again, as the daughter says, first you didn't listen to your father.
Yeah, you don't listen.
Now you don't listen to my father. What's with you?
You can't avoid temptation.
He's human. I see him as every man. I think we're all like that.
He's not a demon. Wait, Adrian, did you just hear that?
She's, I'm on headphones. She can't hear you.
Okay, good. Adrian.
Rabbi said hello.
Hi, hi, Rabbi. Hi, everyone.
You have to talk to John about what he thinks being human is about. Yeah.
No, but I think that's that the
Right.
characters.
No, that's in general,
everyman.
that's for sure. In general, that's for sure. But to take a leaf from your book, John, if we were, you know, trying to analyze characters, every character is human, but every human is human in their own way. So what are his foibles, or what are his issues? Yeah, Lynn.
I think he's a little bit of an idiot, and it seems to me that he only decides to follow the oaths when it's convenient to him, and when there's no other stimulus or temptation. He's fine in a vacuum, but when life presents itself with people asking him to do things or asking him not to do things, he has no fortitude. He can't resist.
So what does this say? If he's an idiot, and I appreciate that term. He's a Torah scholar, isn't he?
I think that I'm pissed at him because he keeps saying, "Oh, but I did it because of this," or "I didn't do it because of that," or "It was only this that made," and he keeps asking God to save him when he's not upholding his end of the bargain. I know.
Yeah. So that brings me back to what you suggested at the beginning, Garden of Eden issues. One of the things that we see in the Garden of Eden story is nobody wants to take any responsibility for what they did. It's always somebody else's fault. The Adam says, no, it's Eve's fault. Eve says, no, it's the snake's fault. It's the serpent's fault. Not my fault. It's not my fault. As opposed to just saying, oh, I blew it. I did the wrong thing. What can I learn from this?
Well, and like John said, that does make this guy a universal archetype for us, for all of us, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Who said we had to like it?
It looks so much more admirable to be a demon,
Yeah, they're one-dimensional though. They don't come off as being interesting.
Three-dimensional idiots are so much better than one-dimensional nobility. Okay. Okay. That's very human too, right?
Yeah, dramatically it's a lot more interesting. Hearing this, Ashmedai rejoiced. I will happily give her to you, he told the man, but you must wait until I return from war. Then he added, from now on, you have my permission. You can enter my daughter's house, frolic together, and woo her as you wish.
That's a demon. That's a demon talking.
Yeah. Ashmedai once returned.
Wait. I have to tell one of my favorite stories. So they tell that when they were young starlets, and I've told this story before because I like it. When they were young starlets, Shelley Winters and Marilyn Monroe were roommates together. And so Shelley Winters, was a hot item back then. So she was also, a starlet who was in big demand. So she told the story. That's just introduction. She told the story that one time Clark Gable asked her out on a date, and she was very excited because he was a big star already. So she told her mother. She told her mother, "Mom, you won't believe how wonderful news that Clark Gable has asked me out on a date." So her mother said, "Shelley," or whatever her real name was, "Shelley, don't be careful."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Right. So here you are. Okay, good. Ashmedai at once.
Ashmedai once returned to battle, captured the province, and destroyed it. He announced to his legions, "Accompany me to my daughter's wedding. I am marrying her to a special man, a scholar and a sage." What did they do? The soldiers gathered all the beasts and fowl they had found in the wilderness, more animals than they could count, and brought them to the banquet. Ashmedai presented the man with the sum of money so great he could not measure or count it. The two of them, with all of Ashmedai's princes and servants present, wrote up the marriage contract. Then Ashmedai made a great feast, distributing gifts worthy of a king. In the evening, the king gave his daughter to the man, as is customary in all lands. When the man and his new wife, entered their chamber, she said to him, "Don't think in your heart that you are a human, that I am a demon, for I possess everything you could ever find in a woman. I lack nothing, but take care. Do not approach me if you do not desire me. I love you as if you were my own eye. I will never leave you, but swear to me about the matters I have just told you."
All right, this is a little bit of a feminist story as well.
The man swore to her. He put the oath in writing and signed it. After he had intercourse with her, and she conceived a son by him. Afterward, he had intercourse with her, and she conceived a son by him. The man had the infant circumcised on the 8th day in accordance with the law of the Torah, and named him Solomon after King Solomon. And so the man lived for 2 years. One day, the man was playing with his son Solomon in the presence of his wife, the daughter of Ashmedai. Suddenly, the man let out a painful sigh. "Why do you sigh?" his wife asked. He replied, "I sighed for the wife and child I left behind in my former land." "What do you lack here?" she retorted. "Do you not find me beautiful? Is it money or honor you want? Tell me, and I will fulfill your wish." The man answered her, "It's not that I lack anything here, but when I see my son Solomon, I remember my other children."
Plot thickens.
She said, "Didn't I once tell you not to take me as a wife if my love was not engraved in your heart? Now here you are, pining away, thinking of the past and your first wife. Don't do it again." "I won't," he answered. Several days later, though, he sighed again, and she said to him, "Will you never stop sighing for that first wife of yours and her children? If this is how it must be, I will take you to them, but you must fix the length for your journey and the time for your return." "You set the time," he replied. "I will give you a year to go and return," she said. "I will do that," the man agreed. "Swear to it," she responded. He took an oath, sealed it in writing with the signature, and gave it to her. And she kept all the oaths to serve as written testimony for herself. What did she do? She invited all her servants and prepared a great banquet. After they had eaten and drunk their fill, she announced, "My husband and master longs to see the wife and children he once had in that other place. Which of you has the strength to take him there?" One demon replied, "I will take him in 20 years. Another spoke up, "I will take him in 10. Still another volunteered, "I will do it in 1 year. The one demon, crippled and blind in the eye, declared, "I'll deliver him in a day." "May your strength increase," she said to that demon, "but take special care that you
How do you say "may your strength increase" in Hebrew?
Yashikoach.
Exactly.
She said to
she says to this demon.
She says to that demon, "But take special care that you inflict no injury upon the man, not even a blemish. Carry him gently, for he is your master and a scholar of Torah. He doesn't have the strength to endure misfortune." "I will do as you have spoken," replied the demon. To her husband, she then said, "Be careful. Don't provoke this demon. He is easily angered, on account of his anger, he is blind." "I will do nothing to anger him," the man replied. "Go in peace," she said, "but take care of your oath." Boy, it's tricky living with demons.
How many oaths has he taken? So
I don't know.
This is the
Wow.
third.
It's at least the third, maybe even more. Okay.
What happened to the man? The demon took him on his shoulders, brought the man to his town, and left him safely outside it on a mountaintop. At daybreak, the demon took on human form, and the two of them entered the city. They met a certain Gentile, a former acquaintance of the man. Are you really that man? The Gentile asked him, the man who went to sea in the ship that sank? Yes, the man replied. Let me go and tell your wife, the Gentile said. She has lived a widow for so many years. He went and reported the news, and the man's relatives and acquaintances rejoiced greatly. They all came out, and he told them what hardships had happened to him on the way and how the Lord had delivered him. The man prepared a great banquet for all his relatives and acquaintances. And after they had eaten and drunk, the man asked the blind demon who had brought him there by order of Ashmedai's daughter, "Why are you blind?" The demon replied, "Doesn't it say in scripture, he who guards his mouth and tongue guards himself from trouble? Why must you embarrass me in public? Did not our sages state, he who embarrasses his fellow man in public loses his place in the world to come?"
Okay, let's stop here for a second. What about this little, encounter? What do we make of this part?
He's going to anger that demon.
Well, he's gonna. Why? What's happening with the demon? What is the demon telling him?
Saying, mind your own business.
Saying you're trying to humiliate me.
Right.
You see
Demon
that I'm-
looks like a regular man now?
Yes, he took
Yeah.
on human form. That's what we had down here, right here. See, at daybreak, the demon took on human form.
So he doesn't look like he's got a blind eye. He looks
No, he's
normal.
blind, but he doesn't look like a blind demon. He looks like a blind human being. Right? So I mean, when the person asks that question, what's going on? What's the point of asking that question?
Violating somebody's privacy.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about respect a little bit of sensitivity, a little bit of consideration. The first time you see somebody that you have a meet with, you all of a sudden ask them the most personal questions about themselves. And of course, when it comes to, is he being commiserating, or is he jumping at, oh, here's a person with a disability, I can push them around. Unfortunately, people with disabilities suffer in both ways.
Well,
They suffer from people picking on them, and they suffer from people who think that they can patronize them.
the only reason to ask the question is for your own gain or for your own
Curiosity.
curiosity. It's like when someone dies and someone says, "What did he die of?" to someone
Yeah.
who's suffering the loss. It's a
Right.
terrible thing to ask because it's all about your worry and not about anything about them.
So
Your nosiness, your curiosity, you care more about what happened than you care about consoling the grieving person.
right, or just holding off a little bit and seeing, what gives. So curiosity, right? We have that famous saying that curiosity is,
Kill the cat.
if you're a cat, it's not a good thing. But we certainly want our children to be curious. We still want to be curious. We don't want to take things for granted. But I would suggest that curiosity is a motif here about in a negative way, right?
Yeah.
We've had a number of instances in this story where curiosity has created a bad situation. Right? I would suggest that curiosity is part of the young Torah scholar's makeup. Right? And on the one hand, to be a Torah scholar, that's good. You ask questions, you look into things. But when the sailors come and tell him, you have no idea what's out there, your father has so many other amazing holdings, I think that whet his curiosity. Look, he has everything and more than he needs. So it's not that he has greed necessarily, but he's curious. There must be, things and places to go and so on. And then, of course, when he's wandering around inside the king's palace, what does the king say? Everything is fine, just don't go to that door, which of course is immediately what he cannot resist. So that's his curiosity gets the better of him. Here we don't have the young sage, but we have another human being, right, who is thoughtlessly, curious and selfishly curious, and not understanding that he's provoking this person. And this person, we're told what's special about this person, this demon.
He's got a camper.
He's got a temper. Don't mess with this guy. All right, let's see what happens. The man tried.
Wait, where am I? The man tried to provoke the demon a second time. Why are you a hunchback? He asked him.
Hey,
The demon answered, it's already been stated in scripture, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a dullard repeats his folly.
What does
But
that? What does that mean here?
If you did it, if you goofed once, you're gonna goof again.
That's right. He's saying you. What's wrong with you? You know, you did it. You made a faux pas once, and now you repeat. You're like a dog returning to its own vomit. Okay.
but I will tell you the true answer if you're
Two.
to your first question as to why I'm blind in one eye, because I am bad-tempered. One day I was quarreling with a friend and he stabbed me with a knife and took out my eye. And to your question as to why I'm a hunchback, go ask the artisan who fashioned me.
Okay, that quote, that's a quote, there's a footnote there. And that's a story in the Talmud where a sage saw a very misformed person, just, deformed person, and said, ooh, how did you get to be that way? This is in Tractate Tanit. We studied it when we studied the previous tractate in the Talmud group. And the person says to him, you're a great sage. You're connected to God. Go talk to God. Ask God why God made me the way I am. What are you hacking me a chinik for?
I have offended you, the man said. Forgive me. I will never forgive that insult, the demon answered. Give him food and drink, the man ordered his servants. I will never eat or drink anything of yours, the demon said. Have them recite grace and let me return home. After they recited grace, the demon asked the man, why do you want me?
That's, by the way, how you know he's a demon. Back in the good old days when we used to announce that we're about to recite grace, that's when everybody left, before we recited grace. So you know that this is a demon when he says we're going to have to wait till after grace before everybody can go home. Okay, good.
After they recited grace, the demon asked the man, what do you want me to tell my mistress, your wife? The man replied, tell her I will never return to her. She is not my wife. I am not her husband.
Oh, okay. So here we are. It's the first day that the guy has come back home. And now he says, send back this message. I tricked her. I got a way to get back to the real life. I escaped. I'm never going back. Never going back. Okay.
Don't say that, the demon said to the man. Don't break your oath. I'm not concerned about the oath I swore to her, the man answered. He brought out his first wife and embraced and kissed her in front of the demon. This is my wife, the man said to the demon. This woman was created in God's image and likeness, while your mistress is a demon. You can tell her I will never return. Once he saw this, the demon departed, went back to his mistress, and told her everything the man had done to provoke him. But how is my master and husband? She asked him. Why do you ask about a man who does not love you? The demon replied.
So wait, let's stop for a second. I'm sorry. What is his report? What is his report about first? What does he choose to tell?
Just about what happened to him, not really.
Right, with the other guy, right? With the other guy, that he had this really unpleasant encounter with this schmo who was insulting him. So he goes through a whole thing like that, but that's not really what she's interested in, but that's not what he wants to talk about, right? If he can somehow not get into that, he doesn't want to. Again, does that sound like a demon? Right? What we have here again and again is the positive qualities of patience, of compassion, of generosity, of helping, all of these qualities that are so important in what we think it means to be a mensch. These demons have them in spades. And this Torah scholar, who's the human being created in God's image, betrays his promises again and again and again and again. Okay, so how's my master and husband? Don't ask. Go ahead. Why do you ask?
Why do you ask about a man who does not love you? The demon replied. He despises you. He said that he will never return to you. He says you are not his wife and that he is not your husband. I don't believe a word you've said, she answered. Everything he's done, he did only to provoke you. I know him. He is a scholar of Torah and he won't break his oath.
Where have we heard that? Where have we heard that before, right? He's a scholar of Torah.
Let me wait until the appointed time and then we will we'll see what will happen. Once the appointed time for the man's return arrived, she summoned the servant. Go, bring my master and husband. The demon said to her, I already told you what he told me to tell you, that he will never return. She answered, when he said that to you, the appointed time had not yet arrived, but now go and tell him that the time of his oath has come, and he must return to me. The demon went and told the man as she had commanded. My mistress asks about your welfare. She also warns you to return to her, for the time of your oath has arrived. The man replied, go and tell her I do not want her greetings, and I will never return.
Okay, and that's where we're going to stop.
It's very Greek. It's getting very Greek.
So that's where we're going to stop for right. There's all this hubris going on, and there's all this uncontrollable human passions that get everybody in to make the wrong decisions and tempt the fates and fight against powers greater than them. Yeah, Carol.
What I'm finding and hearing this is this similar themes to other stories we have talked about.
We did.
And so I almost expected some things to happen based on previous stories we've done. So I assume it's definitely a different story, but I keep wondering whether it's an old, we're
So I did all that.
redoing a story that I'm not remembering it as well.
We have never done this story.
I didn't think so, but it's similar.
Sarah,
It's
you know, these are
definitely
what-
similar.
when you have folk tales have similar motif, similar elements that get mixed together in different kinds of ways. And
Mission's been done.
definitely what I've chosen are stories that give us a little bit of questioning human nature, questioning
in 2019.
people's connection to the tradition. So yeah, this is all part of that.
I've looked and I don't see how to sign you up.
We're gonna
If I look here,
stop here. We still have a little bit of the story left, and
This is it.
God willing, this
but it doesn't say
cliffhanger
anything about, it says where they do it.
resolved.
It doesn't say how
Mouse
to,
take it at home.
how do you sign
Okay.
up for it?
All right.
Okay.